Hi all, I'm back and I'm switching gears. I'm going to talk about a past crime story instead of Lori and Chad right now, because really it's at a standstill, and if it's not, it's being reported by so many people and it's not really anything new. So I want to talk about the White House farm murders that happened in 1985 in England in a little town, Tallis Hunt, Darcy. Okay, so Neville and June got married in 1949. He was in the Royal Air Force. He was the local magistrate. They were both the squires of the town, very respected, very looked up to, and very rich. They had been given June's father's farm, which is where the Whites come from. So that's why it's named White Farm. In a very nice home. It's huge, beautiful, and 300 acres of land. So, and they farmed it, and that's how they made their money, and they made a lot of money. But they couldn't have kids. So, they decide to adopt. First, they adopt Shelia. And I think she was born in, I'm going to have to look at this board every now and then because there's so many dates, in 1957. She was only 2 months old when they adopted her. Then 3 years later, they adopt Jeremy, and he was born in 1961, and he was 6 months old when they adopted him. So they're this beautiful, happy little family. They're so excited for their lives and their future. And on the outside, they always, especially June, she always wanted to make sure that they had the perfect look, that everything looked like it was the perfect family. And she would go to some lengths to do it too. So, but if you live in this little village and you're actually the squires of the village, which is like the head of the church, and you're so respected and so religious. Anyway, so Neville was a 6'4", great man, very easy to get along with, loved to have a drink every now and then, and was outgoing. Well, June, she was a little more shy and very religious. Like some people would even say she's a little bit too religious, because, I mean, they all went to the same church, and she just went a little overboard with it. And she tried to really shove her religious beliefs on everyone, especially her children. So, Shelia was sent to, what are you doing? Several private schools, and then secretarial school, where it's just where you just go to learn to be a secretary after you leave high school. Well, during that time, when she was 17, she became pregnant. So as you can imagine, this was not good for the look of their family. So June makes a decision, and it does go against her religion, so it bothers her, but she makes the decision to schedule an abortion, and she makes her daughter have this abortion. She doesn't want to. And she's dating a guy named Colin from high school, Colin Caffell, which later she marries. So Shelia never forgave her mother for this. Plus the mother began having terrible anxiety and mental problems, more depression and stuff, that she had major depression in 1955 and 1958, where June had to be put into a mental hospital for Great Depression. So really, it was just the beginning. The last time she was in the hospital was 1958, which is a year after they had adopted Shelia. So she already had a history of some mental breakdowns. So they gave her electric shock therapy there. And that was that. But it did seem to continue to weigh on June. It really made their relationship between Shelia and June just no relationship. And if there was, it was her always trying to push her religious beliefs on her, and you should do this and you should be that and blah, blah, blah. And of course that's going to push someone away, because that's how it works. Anyway, I don't want to say anything offensive. So Shelia is actually drop dead gorgeous. And I know I've heard her name somewhere where there's a model with a nickname of Bambi, because their last name was Bambar. So this gorgeous model in the 80s. But she really couldn't handle it. It was too much. I think she was probably partying a lot and spending her money faster than she was making it. So she ended up coming home from London, and she ended up marrying Colin Caffell in May 1977. Excuse me, moi. So 2 miscarriages, and the third time they tried, they had twins. So Nicholas and Daniel were their twin boys, 2 blonde-headed, beautiful babies. She was over the moon excited, and Colin seemed to be too, but then next thing you know, he has left her for another woman. He had been cheating on her. So that's wonderful. That helped her with her breakdown. And she had a mental breakdown. She was put in the same hospital in the same care of Dr. Ferguson, but they actually said that she had schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia. That's what it is. First they had said it was something else, then they changed it. They did admit her to the hospital. They put her on a couple of different antipsychotic meds, and the second one seemed to work better. It was a shot that she would receive weekly as she would go in and see in outpatient care to see Dr. Ferguson. So it took a while, and she was still up and down with depression. And, you know, I guess if you have paranoid schizophrenia, it's not like it can go away. You just have to medicate yourself and be aware of what triggers it. So then we have Jeremy. He is sent off to boarding school at 8 years old. He and his mother already don't get along. He verbally abuses her. The dad pretty much lets him get away with almost anything, saying and doing almost anything, because he's not a disciplinary. And it just aggravates June. Like, he would really go out of his way to kind of try to drive her crazy, I think. Like, she was terrified of rats. You know, think of something you're terrified the most. So she's terrified of rats, and he would get baby rats, no skin or anything, a whole handful of them, and put them in his pocket, and he would say, "Mom, put your hand in my pocket," and, you know, baby rats all over, and she freaking would go into a tailspin. Or he'd get on her bicycle and get in her way and ride around her in circles and circles, not letting her move, and saying things to her, really kind of disturbing to me. But anyway, I'm sure he felt abandoned when he was sent away to school, and he was always a little jealous of what Sheila was getting, what Sheila was doing, why she get this and why don't I? So anyway, also there were talks of him being sexually assaulted at school. He was definitely bullied. He was definitely not popular. He had told some kids that he was adopted, and then he's known as the bastard, and they all make fun of him, and he's having a really hard time. Plus, he calls home, says, "Mom, can I please come home?" And she says no. So a lot of psychiatrists, they'll say when making of a murderer as a child, some of the signs are things like this, where he may shut off his emotions. And from there, you know, just if you don't have emotions, then you're going to do some pretty crazy stuff to other people and yourself. You just don't, because it's like a defense mechanism is what he did, I bet, because that's really young. He's 3 hours away from his parents, 4 years, many years. And I just don't understand why people do that to their kids. I don't get it. Anyway, they wanted him to have a great education, but really his future was he was going to come back to the farm and run it. That was what they said, "This is what you're going to do." And they told Sheila, "You're going to find a nice man, and you're going to get married, and you're going to have as many grandchildren as you possibly can for us. And we're going to look like the perfect family forever." So, now it's come to where Colin has left. Sheila is just a mess, and the courts seem to think that the kids will be better off with Colin. So she loses her kids too. Thankfully, she still had a decent relationship with Colin, and she got to see the boys when, you know, like every other weekend or something. So then it's gotten to where it's 1985, August, and Sheila and the boys want to come for a 2-week visit at Neville and June's. And so Colin brings the boys over, and he leaves. Sheila arrives on the 4th of August, and the boys sometime right around there. Well, Jeremy, he came back in 1982 from boarding school, and he was given a cottage on the property, rent-free. He was given a car, free. He was given 8% of the family's business, and really wanted for nothing, but wanted for everything. Like one of the things that the father did for Sheila when she was going through losing the kids and her mental breakdowns and Colin leaving, is that he got her a flat in London. It was pretty expensive, and he sent her there so she could just do whatever she wanted, and he paid for all of it so that she could get better. And he's like, well, what about me? Why am I stuck here? I want to go to London. I want to party. I want to do this. So you couldn't please this boy, and he would even go to lengths to aggravate his mother and father especially, but even other people in the town. When he had to get on the tractor, he would dress in full costume, and I guess it was kind of clothes back then, but he would really go out of his way. He'd put makeup on, and we're talking Prince or Adam Ant. Just picture it: Duran Duran, the ruffles, the velvet coat, the black boots, army boots that come up to your knees, just crazy stuff. And he would play his music real loud, and if he saw any of his family, he would just act obnoxiously. And so it was embarrassing and humiliating, because they're the squires of the town, and here this kid is acting like an idiot. And sometimes even Neville's secretary would see him out partying with boys and girls, and he would really get into it just to aggravate her, just to look like, look how awful and crazy I am. I'm nothing like my parents. Our life is really not what it looks like. So he got a girlfriend in 1983, met her at a restaurant that they both worked at. Julie Muckford. Okay, this is where it gets kind of crazy. So now we have everybody at the house, and Jeremy's going to drive over that night. They're all going to have dinner. He's going to spend time with his sister and his nephews, and they're going to catch up and have a great time. So they have dinner, and Jeremy says that his mother mentioned something about Sheila finding daytime foster care for the boys while they're there, for the 2 weeks they're there. And he said he really thought his sister would be triggered by that, but she didn't seem to be aggravated. So I'm thinking that's probably like daycare, maybe a little further, finding it to be, just these parents that watch kids during the day or something, just those kids, I don't know. So they have dinner. It ends about 9:30, and Jeremy goes home. And he is said to call his girlfriend about 9:30, very agitated about some things that happened at the dinner. He does not go into detail. He just says, I'm very aggravated, and if it's going to happen, it's going to happen tonight. Something like that. So he hangs up. Then he calls her again later on about 3, and he's like, I've been up all night. Something's going on at the farm, and I'll talk to you later. So next thing you know, oh, that's the other dog. Jeremy is calling the police at 3:30, like 3:36. He says, my dad just called me, Neville Bambar, and something's going on our farm. He said that my sister went berserk and has a gun. So he said that then the line went dead, and his dad's phone line dropped. So he's called the police. He didn't call their emergency one. Like we have 911, they have 999. Well, he called the local police, and later on he said it was because he knew how his family was. They like to save face, and they didn't want everything out, for everybody to know their dirty trash business. So anyway, the police are rushing over there. Now, Jeremy is 3.5 miles from his parents' farm on this 300-acre farm. And it doesn't usually take him very long to get there, but the police actually pass him on their way there. He's driving very slowly, and they thought that was so weird. So anyway, they get there at 5, which I thought was weird. I'm like, okay, wait, 3:30, how far away are they in the country? So anyway, the police get there about 5:30. 5:30. Jeremy comes in after them, not long after them. And you would think they were going to go into the house, but they don't for 2 hours. They sit outside with a megaphone calling inside, screaming into the house. And it's multiple stories. So they're calling into the house, trying to get anyone in there to come out. And I truly think it's because they were waiting on a homeland security type people, because when it's a gun issue or something like that over there, I don't think that the police were trained enough to go in over something like that. That's all I can think. So they wait until they get there, until 7 a.m., and then they go in there. And of course, everybody's dead. Everybody's been shot. Neville is in the kitchen. A chair's been knocked over. He's leaning over it. He's been shot in the face like 5 times. He's also been shot in the body. And you can see there was a terrible fight. Like, he fought whoever it was. And the phone was disconnected and pulled from the wall. Blood everywhere. So then they go upstairs, and the 2 boys have been shot in the head in their beds. So hopefully they were asleep when it happened. And then Sheila and her mother, June, are laying in the master bedroom doorway. And June had been shot in the bed, tried to come out and probably run free, and then got shot again. And whoever was shooting, in the face to kill. So then Sheila, she's on the ground with the gun on her. And we're talking a rifle, okay? You have to do like this to shoot yourself. And I'm sure it's a struggle. So Sheila has been shot like 2 times right here in the neck. And these medical examiners at the trial, they were like, somebody can live after you shoot them right here. And I'm like, that is the jugular. And anyway, we're talking a rifle, okay? So they say she could have still shot herself one more time, which was here, and then she died. So it's laying on her. They're like, this is a murder-suicide. She was mentally ill. It was her. They go outside to tell the brother, Jeremy, and he goes into this hitting the ground, crying, just bawling, trying to make himself throw up. The policeman said, we are trained to accept all these different kinds of reactions to people when they lose family members. Everybody deals with it differently. He said, but this guy was making me so uncomfortable because he was trying so hard to really cry and throw up, and he just couldn't. But he put on a good show, good enough that everybody thought it's just a murder-suicide. And it was kept that way for a few days until Julie Mugford, the girlfriend, just between the time of August 6th and 7th, on that night that all this happened, to, I guess, early September, I don't know. She finds out that he's been cheating on her, and she keeps trying to talk about the murders with him, and he doesn't want to talk about it. He gets real angry and agitated, and she's just starting to feel really weird about maybe he did it, because he had said in the past that he hated his family. He wished he could kill them. He thought about burning the house down. He thought about poisoning them with sleeping pills or shooting them. Now, this is what the girlfriend's saying. And of course, this is the girlfriend that has been cheated on, and she even tried to suffocate Jeremy and kill him. So to me, I'm like, can we even have her as a witness on this? So she went to the police department, and she says all this stuff that Jeremy said and did, and that he was faking at the funeral, that, he would, only when the cameras were on him would he drop and act like he was convulsing, and couldn't stop bawling. And then, but at the funeral and in the wake, he was acting really strange, and he was like, I'm the boss now. I can't wait to get my girlfriend home and have some fun. Just weird stuff. But everything that you read about him, he's just really weird. So she's gone and told them all this stuff, and she's like, I know Sheila. Sheila could never hurt anyone, and I don't think she's ever even shot a gun. And Jeremy's like, yeah, I taught her how to shoot a gun. And they were like, well, what was the gun? Where'd the gun come from? He says, my gun, I loaded it earlier that day and kept a bunch of ammo next to it because I was going to go and shoot some rabbits outside, but I didn't have time later, so I didn't do it. So I just left it on the kitchen table. Who does that? We got 2 6-year-old little boys running around, plus it's a loaded gun. You just don't leave loaded guns around. My dad was such a weirdo about it. I mean, he had them chained up. So anyway, I thought that was very weird. But whenever he had gotten the gun, not long before that, the dad had made a comment to his secretary, Barbara, that he was noticing a huge difference, not a good one, in his son, and that he really feared for his life, his family's life, and at the fault of the gun. He said, it wouldn't surprise me if we all die by that gun. And Barbara was very upset, and so he was like, it's not really going to happen. I'm just upset right now, and he's just acting strange. So it turns into a murder investigation. But between this, like, he's going to Amsterdam, he's going to Saint-Tropez, he's selling his family's things, cars, he's selling naked pictures of his sister to the son. He's just a weirdo. So that does not make you look good when you start selling people stuff when you're already under investigation. So they bring him in, and they actually can't hold him on anything except the night that Julie said that he had staged a robbery into his parents' home and stole some money. And of course, this Jeremy says, well, I was just doing that because I wanted them to see that they needed better security. So he always had an answer for something, but they were able to hold him on that because that's theft and breaking and entering. It wasn't his house, it's not his house. So he bails out and goes off to Saint-Tropez. And then as soon as he gets back, he's arrested for the murder and never free again. They have a trial, and he is, within 9 hours, he's convicted as guilty and gets 5 life sentences. And he has been appealing this thing over and over. Now, this is 30 years ago. He has appealed it so many times, and they actually refused to even let him appeal it. And supposedly, some new evidence has come to light. 2 pictures, one where the sister had supposedly carved into her cupboard, which I'm assuming is like their closets or something, in her bedroom. She had carved, "I hate it here," and also had the Bible next to her open a certain way, which to me, that does not mean anything. So we all say weird things as a kid, and who's to say it was even her? I don't know. So also, the other thing that was so weird is that supposedly there were 2 phone calls. Now, why they can't pull up phone records back then, and I'm talking about just an ordinary phone bill back then, you could look at the number that you called from your number and vice versa. I know that you could do that because I remember looking at phone bills because my dad would be like, why were you on the phone this long? So why they didn't do that, I don't know. Maybe they can't do that there. Also, I know they weren't doing DNA at that time, but they didn't even take care of the case properly afterwards with the murders. Like they grabbed the gun, not wearing a glove, and they just assumed it was murder-suicide, and they pick up all of the linens and carpet that's got blood on it and burn it so Jeremy doesn't have to go into the house and see it. So there was really no crime investigation in the house, so there's really nothing for them to use. And even later, now that we have the DNA thing, I don't think they had any blood left over. But there was supposedly a phone call, and that could have saved him. Jeremy's like, my dad called me. I'm here. They're being murdered over there. I'm with y'all outside, and how could I have murdered them? I'm on the phone with my dad. So after the trial, years later, they come up with this. 2 different dispatchers is what it looked like. Had taken the phone call from Neville at 3:35 and the phone call from Jeremy at 3:36. So it looks like that they have both called the police, and so it's also possible that Neville had called Jeremy after and got the phone yanked out. So, but they were saying that this dispatcher that said the dad called in was not reliable because notes were also made after the fact, like just saying things that had happened at the house and things like that. But and that they recopied it for some reason, like 6 times. So it just wasn't allowed in court, which to me, I don't even think the people that were talking about that on the internet, I don't think they even understood what they were trying to say, because it was just way too, anyway, it wasn't allowed in the court, so it wasn't allowed. And they weren't even able to check and see if they called each other, which really boggles my mind. But anyway, the other thing was that really, really got him, I think, was that the shotgun has a silencer. Shelia could not have shot herself if the silencer would have been on it, which it was not. So they're saying she could just, shoot herself. So August 10th, some cousins are over at the house, because this is before they've arrested Jeremy. They've given them keys to the house and just said, you can go back in the house. We've cleaned everything up so you don't have to see it. And he's got cousins over there staying with him and just hanging out. Well, one of the cousins goes into the family office room and goes into a cupboard. I don't know what these cupboards are. Maybe it's just a drawer or something. I don't know. And finds a silencer. And it's got blood on it and red paint from the kitchen. So that's turned into the police. And they can't determine whose blood it is, but they can determine that it's not Jeremy's. So I'm really confused here. I'm like, what kind of forensics do y'all have over there? Anyway, so it looks like he shot him with the silencer on, took it off and hid it, and then laid the gun on her and made it look like she shot herself. The other weird thing is when they finally went into the house at 7 a.m., so this is all supposedly taking place at 3:30, between 3:30 and 4, and they go in at 7, and all of the blood is dried by now, except for Sheila's. Hers is still fresh and wet. So they thought, well, she must have just killed herself. She must have killed herself while we're all outside. And that is, of course, before they had arrested Jeremy. So Jeremy is still in jail. He cannot even appeal anymore. And I would love to know what y'all think, because it really is, when Shelia went into her psychotic episodes, the doctor even went on stand and said that she had said she's having thoughts of suicide, homicide, thoughts of killing her boys, that her boys are from the devil, and she thinks she could even talk them into killing somebody. Now, if somebody says that, number one, they're not leaving my damn office. They're going to be put somewhere in a hospital, safe, where everybody else is safe. So that was disturbing. And another thing was that the mother, June, they didn't have a good relationship, Shelia and June. She didn't have one with Jeremy either. But it's really bad with Shelia. And Sheila's mother used to also say to Shelia, you're the devil's child. So, that's damaging. That's, that could be damaging. So that went on to be what she would say about her kids. So I'm glad the kids weren't with her all the time. But there's still things that's just kind of iffy on it. If I have to make a decision, I'm going to say I think he did it because of the way that he acted afterwards. But he was already a weirdo. But maybe they just weren't all as close as it looked or he said. People in the town said no, they were not close. He said they were close. No, they weren't. He said Shelia shot a gun. No, she never shot a gun. So it's just hearsay. And anyway, obviously there was enough to convict him. So that's my spiel. I'd love to hear what you think. And I'll be having some more things like true crime, unsolved mysteries, and stuff like that. Probably from way in the past. Because things that are fresh right now, I'm not really updated on, and so many people are reporting on it. I don't know how fun it would be. So anyway, tragic story. Tell me what you think, and I'll see you in a few days. Bye.